In 2025, Dubai raised a toast to a record 95.2 million visitors, a number that represented not just profit, but a declaration of the invincibility of a desert empire. But just 12 months later, that halo vanished, leaving behind a memory soaked in blood and ashes as Terminal 3 of Dubai International Airport became the target of attacks. Welcome to the harshest reality, when the Dubai dream officially collapses. While revenue at Dubai Mall evaporated by 60% overnight, right next door, the artificial snow mountain Ski Dubai continued straining to consume millions of watts of electricity under the desert's 104 degrees Fahrenheit, heat a luxury that has now become irrational and deeply troubling. In just the first 2 months of 2026, the Emirates' once clear blue skies were torn apart by more than 2,200 UAV interceptions, turning the pride of being an absolute safe zone into a chaotic field of falling metal debris. As oil prices surged past $110 per barrel, Dubai realized that money was no longer enough to buy peace, and the cost of its arrogance in defying nature had reached an unaffordable level. Today, we dive into a list of 10 of Dubai's most powerful symbols now facing the risk of permanent shutdown, from blazing runways to towering skyscrapers, slowly losing their escape routes. Which domino will fall next in this survival game? Let's break it down. Dubai International Airport, DXB, is not merely an aviation transit hub. It is the eternal heart, pumping blood into 27% of this small kingdom's GDP. According to a 2024 Oxford economics report, Dubai's economy would immediately stop breathing without the roar of jet engines. In 2025, Dubai celebrated a record 95.2 million passengers. An astonishing number, but in hindsight, it was like placing all eggs into a single glittering basket and hanging it in the middle of a geopolitical storm. Then came March 2026, when black smoke rose from Terminal 3. A serious conflict, 4 people injured, but the real wound lay in the promise of absolute security that the UAE had always used to attract international capital. The Patriot air defense system may intercept 519 targets, but in civil aviation, even a 1% failure rate is enough to erase all trust. When insurance companies raised conflict risk premiums by 500%, it was their most subtle way of saying goodbye, Dubai. British Airways suspending flights through July was not just a technical decision, it was a direct slap at the hub-and-spoke model Dubai once proudly championed. Look at the silent corridors now. DXB is operating at roughly 12% capacity. Ironically, the massive infrastructure that once welcomed the world now costs $15 million per day just to maintain its emptiness. Flight traffic has dropped 70%, paralyzing the Asia-Europe electronics supply chain. It seems that when forced to choose, authorities prioritize protecting military assets over our travel plans. Do you feel nostalgic for the era of cheap flights and quick layovers to Asia? Or is this actually a necessary purge of a system that had grown too arrogant? How can an economy built on connectivity survive when the world begins to decouple and defend itself? Are we witnessing the end of the borderless aviation era? Or is Dubai simply a mirage slowly fading under the harsh light of reality? Maybe you can help answer that below. But don't leave just yet, because as the doors of the sky slam shut, even the most luxurious icons sitting atop the sea are beginning to realize they no longer have a reason to exist. Leave behind the burning runways of DXB and turn your gaze toward the coastline, where an icon once redefined luxury for the entire world awaits. Burj Al Arab no longer holds its status as one of the most luxurious resort paradises on the planet. It is gradually morphing into a massive asset storage facility under red alert. It is hard to imagine that the iconic helipad, where legends like Tiger Woods once made a historic golf swing and Roger Federer once played tennis high above the ground, is now being repurposed to install modern low-altitude defense systems. Continuous radar sweeps and interceptor missile arrays have replaced green lawns and elite afternoon tea parties, proving a harsh reality. Peak aesthetics have bitterly given way to pure survival instinct. Many sources suggest that Jumeirah Group is seriously considering the possibility of temporarily shutting down this symbol to preserve working capital amid tightening cash flow. In less than 24 hours after the military incidents, the brand value of this 7-star hotel dropped by 35%, equivalent to billions of dollars in market capitalization, wiped off the balance sheet. As loyal clients of brands like American Express, Centurion, and JP Morgan Chase, Black cardholders begin fleeing to seek safety in bunkers in Switzerland or New Zealand. Burj Al Arab immediately falls into functional emptiness. A structure designed to serve the top 0.1% of the global population becomes useless if the international elite no longer dare to set foot there. Maintaining a workforce of thousands, along with an extremely energy-intensive operational system while occupancy rates approach zero, is an unsolvable economic equation. Flagship stores like Tiffany & Co. and the lavish jewelry displays in the main atrium are now covered in dust sheets, waiting for a distant return. When the price of a single night reaches $20,000, customers expect luxury paired with absolute security, not a prime location on a long-range weapons targeting map. The question is, what does luxury really mean when your life depends on the interception probability of a missile? Have we overvalued outward glamour while forgetting that the core of all prosperity is stability? Look at this reality. If even the most luxurious oases begin to shake, then the cathedral of global consumerism will surely be the next domino to fall. If Dubai were a religion, Dubai Mall would be its cathedral. Here, they don't just sell Hermes bags or Rolex watches. They sell what we call the Middle Eastern version of the American dream, limitless abundance. Contributing up to 5% of the Emirates' GDP, this is the massive money-printing machine of the Al Maktoum family. But look, this fortress is cracking from within. In March 2026, the statistics hit like a bucket of cold water thrown straight at Wall Street. Foot traffic dropped by a staggering 45%. Imagine a space that once welcomed 80 million visitors a year, more than twice the population of the entire state of California, now so empty that you only see security staff passing through deserted halls. At Fashion Avenue, once the fierce battleground of powerful Amex Centurion cards, revenue dropped 60% in just 4 weeks of conflict. The bitter irony is this. As crude oil prices exceed $110 per barrel, Dubai Mall is being strangled by the very resource that created it. Electricity costs to run its massive air conditioning system, fighting against desert heat above 100 degrees Fahrenheit, have surged 25%. A temple of excess now faces the risk of rolling blackouts. It is almost absurd that aquariums holding millions of gallons of water must dim lights and cut filtration systems just to save every last dollar. Supply chain disruptions at Jebel Ali port have made luxury goods scarcer than ever. Meanwhile, 1,200 stores are stuck in a state of slow death, struggling with sky-high fixed costs while revenue drops to zero. About 15% of franchise stores have begun clearing inventory to cut losses. The psychology of luxury spending the key fuel of this economy has been replaced by survival instinct, stockpiling essentials. For Americans, this recalls the collapse of shopping malls during the pandemic, but here, it carries the scale of a global financial crisis. Dubai Mall is no longer a premium destination. It now resembles a giant air-conditioned warehouse counting down to budget exhaustion. How long can a city survive when its consumer heart stops beating? Can money truly buy sustainable prosperity, or is it just a glossy coating that peels away easily when peace becomes temporary? Dubai Mall now ranks 7th on the death list. Its eerie silence is a chilling forecast of an uncertain future. In the military world, height is sometimes not an advantage, but a curse. At 2,717 feet, Burj Khalifa is no longer just an architectural marvel. It has become the largest radar cross-section target in the civilian area. Since March 2026, the famous at-the-top observation decks have been closed indefinitely. The reason is simple, yet enough to send chills down anyone's spine. Missile warning time in Dubai is only about 3 to 5 minutes. Imagine evacuating thousands of visitors from the 148th floor to the ground within that short window that is a rescue problem with no solution. The arrogance of height has now turned into a massive financial burden. As insurance costs soar to unrealistic levels, Emaar is forced to bear all the risks itself. With 18 ballistic missiles landing within a 1-mile radius of the tower, property values here have dropped 22% in just 60 days. Ironically, Otis's pride, the high-speed elevator system now has to limit operations to prioritize backup power. Professionals and employees of international corporations have fled to neighboring countries or chosen remote work to preserve their lives. Burj Khalifa, once a symbol of unmatched prosperity, now serves merely as a giant antenna for military communications. As this backbone begins to shake, the entire multi-billion-dollar downtown Dubai project also starts collapsing in a domino effect. This is the clearest proof of what is called the Dubai mirage, extraordinarily magnificent, yet extraordinarily fragile. Have you ever wondered why we keep striving to build modern towers of Babel when we cannot even protect them? What does height mean if it only provides a clearer view of the destruction approaching? But the risk is not only in the clouds. When the peak is threatened, fear spreads down to sea level, where artificial wonders once considered isolated paradises are revealing themselves as deadly geographical traps. Leaving behind the dizzying heights, let's turn our gaze to the sea, where the eighth wonder resides, Palm Jumeirah. You need to remember this stark truth. This island has no natural geological foundation. It is a fragile structure, entirely dependent on sand pumping systems and artificial reinforcement. In late February 2026, offshore explosions created shockwaves strong enough to shatter the luxury reinforced glass panels at beachfront resorts. But that was only the beginning. When Jebel Ali port was militarized, the cost of living on the island immediately surged by 30%. The 80,000 residents and visitors suddenly realized that their lives and basic needs depended on a single access route to bring in food and fresh water. You will see a painful paradox on real estate listings. The number of villas being sold at a loss has jumped 300%, yet liquidity is nearly zero. Who would want to pour money into a paradise at risk of being blockaded by the sea? $1 million super yachts, once the pride of the harbor, have quietly departed, taking with them the hope of a sustainable era of prosperity. More concerning, the island's wastewater treatment and desalination systems are on the brink of paralysis due to a shortage of replacement parts caused by sanctions. With 46 UAVs having fallen into the waters around the island, Palm Jumeirah now ranks 5th on the risk list due to its isolated nature and extreme difficulty to defend. British tourists, a key customer segment, have also turned away following strict warnings from the Foreign Office. The collapse of Palm Jumeirah is the most powerful evidence that humanity cannot reclaim the sea without a stable foundation on land. Do we truly own an island when we cannot even control the peace of the surrounding waters? Isn't the real wonder humanity should seek peace rather than dumping sand into the ocean to create illusions of luxury? What do you think? Let us hear your opinion below. Take a look at that massive eye-shaped structure. The Museum of the Future was built as a declaration of the UAE's Vision 2071. But ironically, it is now struggling just to survive through 2026 as the sounds of conflict begin to echo. Dreams of artificial intelligence and hologram projection technology have been immediately pushed aside. The operating budget for its exhibitions has been cut by 40%. The reason is simple. When 18% of the national budget is forced to shift toward defense and security, cultural technology projects suddenly become luxuries detached from reality. In a world on fire, visitor numbers have dropped by 30%. International corporate and educational groups, the very lifeblood of this place, have canceled all their schedules. More painfully, international experts, the minds behind the complex interactive systems, have begun packing up and leaving the UAE due to security risks. The inevitable result? Exhibition systems that require constant maintenance from Western partners are now nothing more than lifeless blocks of steel. The stainless steel shell engraved with radiant calligraphy once meant to inspire has now become a visible target in propaganda conflicts. By May 2026, the museum is expected to open only 2 days a week just to maintain nominal existence. It ranks 3rd on the list of locations at risk of complete shutdown to conserve energy. How ironic. A museum about the future that doesn't even have a short-term future. This is proof of the fragility of soft power when confronted directly with hard power. How can we design the future when the present itself is being drowned in flames? Do knowledge and technology still mean anything when they are merely used to decorate a world that is falling apart and turning against itself? The future may be on pause, but somewhere else, collapse has already happened, leaving a wound deeper than any skyscraper. If you are looking for the first domino that truly collapsed in this ecosystem, it is Global Village. On the 1st of March 2026, the gates of the Global Village officially shut down. Why would a destination that attracted up to 10 million visitors each season be the first to be eliminated? The answer lies in security. With an outdoor area spanning over 17 million square miles, it is an ideal soft target for low-cost drone attacks. Concentrating tens of thousands of people at once in an open space is a security risk that authorities can no longer control. Real-world data shows that the cost of securing a space like this is 10 times higher than protecting a single tower. The collapse of Global Village carries enormous symbolic weight. It marks the end of the dream of a borderless world. Around 3,000, 500 pavilions representing 78 countries now stand abandoned. Dust covers replicas of the Eiffel Tower and the Taj Mahal. With a single announcement, thousands of small businesses lost their livelihoods. For analysts in Washington, this image is the death knell of the era of safe mass tourism in the Gulf. Global Village now resembles nothing more than an empty lot, with deteriorating architectural replicas baking under the scorching desert sun. Our next destination is a place you might not even think could exist. A snow mountain in the middle of the desert. Is there any greater symbol of arrogance than trying to maintain a snow-covered slope at 30 degrees Fahrenheit in the middle of a brutal 104 degrees Fahrenheit desert? Ski Dubai is not just a resort. It is an electricity-consuming monster, with power usage enough to light up an entire small city in the United States. But when the 2026 conflict broke out, striking directly at energy infrastructure and causing oil prices to fluctuate violently, this location suddenly became an irrational financial burden. Experts predict this will be the second symbol officially shut down after Global Village. Why? Because maintaining artificial snow while residents face the risk of basic supply shortages is a bitter irony in risk management. Imagine this. Nearly 25 tons of artificial snow are at risk of turning into a massive body of water if the backup power system fails. Maintenance costs for machinery imported from Germany have tripled due to sanctions and transportation risks. At this point, money is no longer an all-powerful force. Shutting down Ski Dubai is not merely an economic decision to save 8% of the city's commercial electricity, it is also a moral statement in wartime. With ticket sales dropping by 75%, the artificial ice is literally melting, reflecting the collapse of the era of cheap oil and an artificial peace. Have you ever wondered why we try to freeze the desert, only to helplessly watch it melt when the power goes out? Perhaps we have been too arrogant in believing that the power of the US dollar could fully replace the laws of nature. Let's temporarily step away from the molten steel blocks in the city center and turn our gaze towards the sea, where artificial sand strips are trying to defy the laws of nature. Look at Atlantis. The Palm, the dazzling pink gate, worth $1.5 billion USD guarding the pinnacle of Palm Jumeirah Island. There was a time when this place was a symbol of endless excess. 65,000 sea creatures were nurtured in gigantic glass tanks just to serve as a backdrop for billionaire parties. But to maintain that artificial life amidst the harsh desert heat, this resort had to expend a tremendous amount of financial resources. When the conflict of 2026 broke out, the flow of international guests, which was the oxygen of Atlantis, suddenly ceased. With the occupancy rate dropping below 20% each passing day, Atlantis was no longer a money-printing machine, but a massive money-burning furnace. But the real problem lies a bit further offshore: the World Islands. A project that consumed up to 14 billion USD to create 300 artificial islands resembling a world map. Now, seen from above, it doesn't look like a wonder, but rather like sores on the surface of the sea. Most of these islands are still just barren piles of sand being eroded day by day. Worse than the financial waste is the hidden ecological disaster. The construction of massive wave barriers to protect the sand has inadvertently obstructed the flow of water. The result? The seawater around the world has become stagnant, emitting a foul odor due to algal blooms. The Heart of Europe project, where they promised snow-covered streets in the middle of the bay, now appears as a clumsy lie on an unstable sand foundation. We seem to be witnessing a silent revenge. When the flow of capital stops and the sand pumps cease operation, the ocean begins its work, swallowing the million-dollar islands. The floating villas, once advertised as the future of humanity, are now just pale concrete blocks waiting for the tide. Are we really conquering nature, or are we just borrowing time from it at an exorbitant interest rate? What is the meaning of a paradise when it is surrounded by toxic waters and the neglect of those who created it? Because the collapse of these wonders is not just an architectural or ecological issue, it is a massive gap worth 600 billion USD threatening to wipe out the entire economy of the Golden City. The final stop in our journey to decode risk is Jebel Ali port. As the world's 9th largest container port, Jebel Ali has long been the logistical backbone that allowed Dubai to extend its commercial tentacles across the globe. But as of 2026, the tourist zones and civilian yacht marinas here have been completely erased. The entire port area has now shifted into a state of martial law. Jebel Ali is no longer a glamorous free trade hub. It has transformed into a full-fledged military logistics base. A collision with a container ship about 40 miles offshore has raised fears of a full blockade at the Strait of Hormuz, causing civilian shipping traffic to plummet by a staggering 50%. A haunting image is emerging. Berths once reserved for million-dollar super yachts of the global elite are now filled with aid containers and defense equipment from Raytheon and Lockheed Martin. The militarization of this port has not only shattered revenue from maritime tourism, but also directly pushed goods prices up by 20%. Jebel Ali is the last civilian port to shut down because it has become a fortress of survival. This proves a harsh truth. Money cannot protect trade without real military power. The paralysis of this place is the final blow piercing through Dubai's polished, rendered economic model. So, we have passed through 9 symbols from the blazing runways of DXB to the militarized docks of Jebel Ali. As you can see, the collapse of an empire does not necessarily come as a catastrophic explosion. Sometimes, it is just the clicking sound of Otis elevators shutting down, the melting of an artificial ice rink, or the eerie silence in the marble corridors of a shopping temple with no more worshippers. Dubai in 2026 is standing before a shattered mirror. It is forced to choose. Either redefine itself as an entity grounded in real security, or accept becoming the next Mohenjo-Daro of history, a magnificent ruin proving human arrogance before nature and politics. Have we become too accustomed to building dreams on sand, forgetting that the core of prosperity lies not in the height of towers, but in the strength of the foundation beneath our feet? Would you choose a $1 million apartment on the 148th floor with no escape route, or a quiet but stable life? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. We have just completed a journey through 10 symbols of collapse, from the burning runways of DXB to the militarized port of Jebel Ali. As you can see, the fall of an empire does not always come with a massive Hollywood-style explosion. Sometimes, it begins with very small things. The grinding noise of an Otis elevator system losing power, the sight of an artificial snow mountain melting into water, or the chilling silence in the marble corridors of a shopping cathedral with no footsteps left. Dubai in 2026 stands before a shattered mirror. It must make a survival choice, either restructure its entire economy to pursue real security, or accept becoming a modern-day Mohenjo-Daro, a magnificent ruin that testifies to human arrogance against nature and political games. Perhaps we have grown too familiar with building rendered dreams on shifting sand, forgetting that the core value of prosperity lies not in the height of skyscrapers, but in the solidity of the ground beneath us. Between a $1 million apartment on the 148th floor with no escape route and a quiet but safe life, which would you choose? One last thing. Please note that this video is not intended to predict the future, but rather to provide a different perspective on existing geopolitical risks. If you found value in today's reflection, support us by hitting like and subscribing to the channel. Your support is the motivation for me to continue digging into hidden corners and exposing the raw truths that the glossy world out there often tries to conceal. See you in the next video.